Welcome everybody to Football Talk. I am your host, Bo, and it is Wednesday, so it's time to get our picks in for the week. Just ahead of Thursday Night Football, hopefully it won't be the atrocity that we watched last week with the Colts and the Broncos. Although I figured it was going to be a bad game, I really didn't assume that it was going to be the just tragic event that we watched. That being said, we're going to watch the Bears and the Commanders. So this is going to be another mid-off where two bad teams go at it on a Thursday night. Kind of reminds me of the way Thursday night started. And in this one, I have to imagine that the Commanders can go on the road and pick up this win. I know that the Bears have a top 5 defense, but they just don't trust Justin Fields to do anything. And although they have a really good rushing attack, Justin Fields has only thrown for 679 yards, 3 touchdowns, 4 picks. That's something that most of these quarterbacks around the league have done in 2 games, especially when you compare it to Carson Wentz, who's coming into this at just under 1,400 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 6 picks. I imagine that the Commanders will be able to move the ball a little bit better, especially since the Commanders also have an okay defense. They're top 12 depending on which platform you're looking at as far as stats, whether it's ESPN or Pro Football Focus. They have their defense overall in around that 12th position. So I think Commanders can go in and get this Thursday night win, but at the end of the day, neither one of these teams are good. I imagine we're going to watch some pretty sloppy football. So if we go into the morning games, I got San Fran going into Atlanta. They have the top defense in the league, and Jimmy G has been doing solid. So going up against an Atlanta team that just isn't very good, I would imagine that they can get it done. I have Cleveland beating New England at home. I'm really not sure how the Patriots beat up on the Lions so bad. The Lions are not as bad as their record would show, but man, they just can't seem to get it done. And of course, now you got to start to wonder, is Dan Campbell starting to get on the hot seat, similar to Matt Rhule getting let go earlier this week? I would imagine he is probably starting to look at either get some wins or they may move off him, which is too bad because Dan Campbell's such a good guy. You really hope for success for him, but man, the way this has started out, been some rough sledding for sure. I have Green Bay winning at home over the Jets. There's something about the New York teams that, as long as I've watched both New York teams, I have a hard time taking either one of them seriously. So there's some natural bias there, and maybe they can both prove me wrong as the year goes, but it's hard for me to pick either the Jets or the Giants. But I have Green Bay winning at home. I have Indy also winning at home against Jacksonville. I don't trust Jacksonville in any way. They have moments where they kind of flash and then they just fall apart. So I'm going to take the Indy team to win at home and probably a close one. I'm going to go with Minnesota on the road. Tua is still out. He did go to practice today, so that's a good sign, but he will likely not play on Sunday. Teddy Bridgewater is still in concussion protocol, so he's definitely out. And so now you have your third string, Skylar Thompson, at the helm. He does get Tyreek Hill, even though he's in a walking boot after last week, but he'll be eligible to play, but I'm certain that won't be enough to get it done with the third string quarterback against this Minnesota team. So I think they get a road win. It's also an early game, so that bodes well for their quarterback. I got Cincy going on the road in New Orleans. That New Orleans defense is not very good, although they were able to beat the Hawks this last week. They didn't keep them from moving the ball in any way. So I think Cincy can go on the road and make that happen. I have Baltimore on the road also against the G-Men. And like I said before, that some of that's just some bias against the New York teams. Not that I dislike the teams in any way. They've just been bad for so long. It's hard to accept the fact that they aren't horrible. I just keep waiting for, the wheels to fall off and them to be the, 4-win team that we've come to know and love out of the New York teams. I got Tampa Bay on the road. I don't feel like Kenny Pickett's going to have a huge bounce back game as his second start. They actually probably didn't do this kid any favors, especially because the rest of the team didn't really seem like they were into the game. I think the rookie was probably the most excited about being on the field last week. And so if any of that carries over into this week, I have to think that Tampa Bay walks away with an easy win here. I got I got LA winning at home over Carolina. Again, Matt Rule was just fired, so their their interim coach went 3-13 as the head coach in Arizona. So I don't exactly have a ton of faith that him stepping in is going to turn this thing around. So I imagine Carolina goes and collects another L, and LA starts to right the ship at home. I have Seattle getting the win at home over Arizona, although they gave up a heartbreaker last week against New Orleans. Arizona also doesn't look like they know what they're doing or what they are as a team. They seem to make a lot of mental mistakes, seem to be really inconsistent on both sides of the ball, which should make this an interesting game. Since both teams haven't been very good, it should be a pretty tight game. Unlike the Thursday night game where these teams are so bad that it's probably going to be ugly football, in this case, it's probably going to be a good game because they're fairly equally matched. I got KC winning at home over Buffalo. This one's going to be fun to watch. I'm really looking forward to that game. I think KC probably has a little bit more firepower, and since they're at home, I think they're going to get it done. But that is a game that could go either way. Both these teams are really clicking. I got Philly beating Dallas. I think this will be Cooper Rush's first loss as a starter, which is probably why they are keeping Dak out one more week, because they don't want him to come back to the hardest game on their schedule and get beat down and then have a real quarterback controversy. So I think that they're going to stick with Rush. He's going to catch his first loss, and then you'll end up seeing Dak next week. And then Monday night, we get to watch this just floundering Denver team again in prime time against a Chargers team that also has been underwhelming so far. So this is another situation similar to Thursday night that it's probably going to be an ugly game. And, it's going to come down to just who gets that one play, like any game does, but this one is probably the one play they make. So it's probably going to be a disappointing Monday night game, but what do you do? Fortunately for the Raiders, they got a bye week this week ahead of Devontae Adams getting charged with misdemeanor assault over that shove of the camera guy. So it shouldn't be too much of a distraction for him. The only downside is I would bet he gets at least a 1-game suspension for doing that. And then, so subscribe. Let me know which picks you agree with, which ones you don't. And if I was hating on your team, I'm sorry, but, it is what it is. Have a good day.